So this is the last thing I'm gonna do before the engine goes in. I picked up this DEI heat shielding gizmo that attaches with big hose clamps, and I'm going to do a little slice and dicing to get it into here. If I slide it behind here and then slip it down, it is close to where I want it to be. What I'm gonna do is probably slit it right here so it slides over this bracket better. And then I gotta make the holes, of course, for the O2 sensor, the wideband sensor, and the EGT. But I think it'll fit about like that. And then, well, like I said, once this is slit, this will slide down further. It'll be a little neater. So let me get cracking on that and see if I can make it look nice. And that is done. It was pretty easy overall. I slit the bottom, so it slid over that bracket. I made a couple of holes for the O2 sensors and the EGT. I ran the clamps around it in the 3 positions they call for. And it bunched up in the middle because it's not supposed to take a right-hand turn. So I stitched it together with welding wire, MIG welding wire. I just stitched it in like I was sewing it, and one here too. And I put a piece right here too, because since it was bending in the middle, it's not really meant to bend. It had a little bump right here, and it was kind of crawling up the O2 sensor mount. So I just took a piece of, again, I think it's 031 thousandths MIG welding wire, wrapped it around once or twice. It will cinch, and that's it. That keeps it taut, and that does the trick. So this is a DEI 010450. It's a 6-inch wide by 1 foot long. They don't seem to come wider than 6-inch, and 1 foot is the shortest. So I wanted to get the widest I could get, but the shortest I could get, and this seems to be about it. So yeah, it's not covering the entire thing, but I'm keeping a lot of the heat off my breather pipe, the back of the motor, the oil pressure line, my hands when I get in there and adjust the wastegate, which I will be adjusting the wastegate. I have it backed way off right now to break the motor in so I don't do anything stupid with it. If it could have covered here, would have been nice, but whatever. It's better than nothing, right? And I was gonna wrap it, but there's all kinds of horror stories about wrapping them and they deteriorate and crack, so I figured, what the hell, I'll try this stuff. It has a boundary layer between the cloth and the pipe. One word of caution I will give you is, as you can assume, this stuff is full of fiberglass. So yeah, after working with it for a while, I was getting itchy. So you probably want to wear gloves. Eye protection, not a bad idea. I didn't get any in my eyes, but if you get it on your hands and you rub your eyes, boom, you'll have fiberglass in your eyeballs, which probably is not cool. So word to the wise on that one. Okay, so all right, let's get this fucker in and get it back on the road. Good morning, Sunbird Nation. Well, you can see it's in, reinstalled, and it's home. Looks good. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to get the mounts lined up, but every time you do something, you learn a lesson, right? So the lesson I learned was, don't leave that rubber rear mount for the transmission inside the bracket. Take it off, get the engine in, then drop the mount in later. So learn from my mistakes. Here's a mistake you'll learn from too. I was wondering after I got it in the car if that O2 sensor is going to stick out too far and contact the fan. Yeah, it does. I just tried the fan and the angle's wrong. So I got to take it out, re-drill the bung, and move it over like to, I don't know, this area here, more vertically. Then it'll fit lovely. So that was a mistake, stupid mistake. It's going to be a pain in the nuts to do it in the car, but oh well. I tell my kids all the time, stupid should hurt, and it does. So I'll fix that later. I'm going to go up, put the car up in the air and go under it in a minute and show you the wiring harness and the starter and the studs I put in for the coolant hose. It didn't work out like I thought. I mean, yeah, the studs do help, but getting the harness to lay in where it needs to go didn't work out quite right. Once I get under it, I'll explain better. So for the moment, here is the top side, and it's in. It's pretty. There's a mess of wires I have to hook up and figure out where they go and all that crap, but I'm on my way. So before I put it up in the air, I figured I'd show you the orientation of the coolant hose in relation to the power steering pump and the back of the engine, etc. So right now the power steering pump is off the engine. It's sitting right there. And let me see if I can get in here to show you. If you look behind here, that's where the power steering pump usually mounts. There is your coolant hose connection to the water pump housing. So you can get your arm in there pretty easily, and there's your clamp. And then there goes your steel line. If I get in here a little closer. It's kind of hard. Well, anyway, there's the steel line. If you look further back, there's the starter. See it right there, just peeking through that opening. There's your starter connections. So that's kind of the area you're working in. So I had to disconnect the hose right here and then take the bracket off on the bottom of the manifold. And in a minute, I'll put it up in the air and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I just wanted to capture this while it's on the ground. So here's a nice clear view of what we're dealing with. There's the starter. There's the starter connections. That bracket is the hose bracket right there. So it goes up there. That's where it meets that clamp I just put on. What happens is this big fat harness, see it right there? That goes behind the starter and under that hose. So what I had done was bolted the hose on with studs loosely and connected at that end. And the problem was when you put the wiring harness behind the hose and bracket with that hose connected on the right, yeah, right up there, I can't really point, right there, boom, right there. What happens is the harness is behind the hose, but it won't come down to make this swoop right here. The wiring harness is captivated behind the hose, the tube. So it bunches up and you're actually crushing the harness with the hose bracket when you bolt it back into the studs. The studs work awesome, by the way. I mean, you could probably get your hands up there with nuts, bolts rather, to put it on like stock, but this is so much easier. You just slide it in, pop it on the studs. The hose connection holds it up, thread the nuts on by hand, then away you go with a 13mm swivel socket on a long extension. So that's nice and easy. I do recommend that. Just make sure the studs aren't very long. You can see they just protrude past the nut. If you make them too long, you won't be able to get the hose bracket past the starter solenoid. So word of the wise on that one. Just protrude about 5/8, 3/4 of an inch. That's it. You can check it on the engine stand before you put the engine in the car. Anyway, so I had to take that connection off on that end, like I just showed you guys. Pull it out, put the harness where it's gonna go, slide the harness under the hose, the metal pipe, and then put it all back together again. So that's where we stand right now. So word of the wise on that. What I would do next time is just leave the metal hose and bracket off, I guess. You can set it all up on the stand so it'll fall right back together again, but there's no sense in tightening it on that end because the harness is gonna be in the way. So there you go. Here's the rest of what I'm doing today, trying to hook all this crap up and get this guy running next week or whenever. So let me get back to work, but I wanted to show you that. And one other thing too is, I have the car up in a lift. Obviously, I'm under it. I've never had a lift before working on this car. I mean, I stopped working on it around 2015, and I didn't buy this lift until 2017. I have a small shop I bought. Before that, everything I did was in my home garage, on the ground, on a creeper. So doing this kind of stuff on the ground is a pain in the ass. On the lift, so much easier, man. You can get at everything. It's nice. So if you got a lift, God bless you. If you don't, sucks. But I mean, you can do it all. It's just hard. Stuff like this is super hard on the ground. So I highly recommend a lift if you have access to one. So, all right, let me get back to work, but I wanted to show you that much anyway. All right, guys, one more video for the day, and I'm gonna call it a day. The bottom end stuff is pretty much done. All the lines are on. The air conditioner is back in. Man, what a pain in the ass to work on this thing. I forgot how wonderful it was. The two studs look really easy to get the bracket on, but the bracket 90's around the front. I don't know if you can see it well, but right up there. See the top of the bracket? Right there, see that open hole? That's where it wraps around the front. Way up there, see it? That open hole. So you gotta put on the studs, but slide it on that too. And in my case, I had to clock the turbo again, which bums me out. I wanted it to go straight down because there's a indentation right there. A 90-degree pipe goes in and it goes right to the intercooler. But I can't do that now with these lines in the way, which sucks. I'm gonna have to do some funky bending or something to make this thing work. I'll get it to work. I did in the old days. I'll do it again now. I just had thought with the small turbo on this thing, it would go together nice and easy, but it ain't so. So you can see the interference I have. It's not a ton. It's just, you know, it's enough. I don't know if I can get a good shot of it, but it probably overhangs the opening of the turbo by, oh, I don't know, maybe a fourth of the opening. Yeah, there you go. There's a shot of it. So we'll get it. Just got to screw around. I can't bend the line that much, but I can clock the turbo some more and use a 45 maybe. I'll make it work. So all this crap is on. So I just wanted to video one more time under the car before I call it a day. So it's on. I mean, these two studs are a pain in the nuts. I mean, you can get the bottom one on pretty easy. The top one, it's hard to get your hand in there to get the nut started. I had to use a long pair of needle nose pliers just to get it on, and then I spun it on, luckily by hand. But this bottom one, I mean, you can't get a ratcheting gear wrench on it because the stud almost touches the compressor. So I could cut the stud down a smidge, I suppose, but then that's less room you have to slide it over later. But whatever, I'll do what I got to do. So, all right, let me finish up, get out of here, and I will see you next time.